Our lateral border, again, here is that glenoid cavity. We'll see a better view on our lateral view, but this is the lateral side of the bone here. So this border right here is the lateral border, also called the axillary border, as this would be right around the armpit region. So the humerus is the upper arm bone, and it's going to connect to that glenoid cavity. So our arm would hang down this way. So you can tell that lateral border is right around where the armpit is, so hence its name, axillary border as well. The medial border will be on the other side of the angle right here, and it's also called the vertebral border as it's closer to the vertebral column or your spine. And then the superior border is past the other point, and that's just going to be that section right there. So there's our three borders. Now working on the angles themselves, we'll also highlight these. The inferior angle is going to be this bottommost point right here. The superior angle will be the one on top in between the two borders. And then the lateral angle, we can't see the top of the actual glenoid cavity, but it's going to include that part right there. And then also just this entire section. And so that's the lateral angle. So there's our three angles. Now we also need to work on the fossae. So looking at the posterior side still, we can only see two of our fossas. So our first one is the infraspinous fossa. So starting with the spine here, this shallow depression underneath, that is the infraspinous fossa. So it's this whole thing, this whole indention. Whereas the supraspinous fossa is going to be above the spine. So it will be this shallow depression. And then also from the posterior view, we can see our suprascapular notch right here. So this little indention right there between the coracoid process and the superior border. Looking at this view, our next view, we see we're looking directly at this glenoid cavity. So this would be our lateral view. So this is our lateral view. We can still see all those same features. We're actually going to be looking directly on the lateral or axillary border. We see the inferior angle, see a little bit of the infraspinous fossa, but we see the dimensions of our glenoid cavity right here. Now we also have two tubercles that we can see pretty clearly from this lateral view. So our first one is going to be this little bump right here above the glenoid cavity, which is the supraglenoid tubercle. And then we're also going to have one below the glenoid cavity right here, which is going to be that infraglenoid tubercle. So there's our two tubercles. We can also see the extent of our two processes. There's a spine. So here's our acromion or acromion process. And then on the anterior side, we see this coracoid process right here. Now looking at our last view right here, you'll notice we don't see the spine of the scapula. Here is our glenoid cavity indicating here's our lateral side. So this is the anterior view of our scapula. And we still see all those same features. Subscapular fossa will be the only new feature from this view, and it's just going to be the shallow depression on the front of the scapula.